Good morning, good afternoon. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Evelyn. Happy Sunday to you.
Hello.
All right, I had an echo. I think I fixed it. All right, happy Sunday. I hope everyone is well. It's been a minute. I think I was just missing for a week last week. We connected week before. All right, I'm going to give it just a couple of minutes for folks to join, and then I'll get started. Happy Sunday to you as well. I hope everyone is well. Happy Sunday, Elle, Lorraine. Good to see you. Happy Sunday from the Bronx. Happy Sunday from Virginia. Hey, LT. How are you? Let's talk about it with Mara. Hello, hello. Hey, Michelle. Claudia, happy Sunday. I am well. I hope everyone is well. Hi, Deborah. Cynthia, I owe you a message, Deborah. I haven't forgotten. Audrey, happy Sunday, people. Good to see you all. Happy you all are here. Dr. O, good morning from Detroit. LT, you going back to Mexico. All right. Crystal, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, everybody. Glad you all are here. I appreciate you all being here. I missed you all last week. I was tired. Had a lot of stuff I needed to get done, and I won't be on long today, even though those are famous last words. But I do have some outside work that is calling me, outside stuff on the house. Outside of 2 projects. Yes, Evelyn, we see your comments. Outside of 2 projects. Hi, Judith. Good to see you in the chat. I am really close to being finished with the work on the house. And so the outside stuff, I am trying to wrap up. We're supposed to have storms later on today, so I want to wrap it up before the storms hit. I also have to go to pick up some stuff to finish up that work. So I cannot be on long today. That's what I'm saying. I hope everybody is well. I missed you guys. Let me do my intro. We'll get started. As I introduce myself, I always say that I built a kind of fancy tiny house in 2015 because I don't believe you have to give up luxury to go tiny. Since that time, I have shared my journey to hopefully inspire others who are interested in the movement. I am a tiny house consultant, advocate, dweller, all of the things. I do offer coaching and consultations to help others in their tiny house journey. And once this goes live, you will be able to find links to schedule with me in the description. And as I'm doing all of that, I like to serve up a lot of representation in the movement. I want us to see ourselves. I want us to be here in the movement. I want us to be able to talk through what we have going on, what our challenges are, all of the things. I want us to be able to take advantage of the benefits of downsizing in tiny houses and all of the things. So if you find this video and the information helpful, I hope you'll like the video, you'll share it, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications so you can be here when I am going live and content is available. And thank y'all for being here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right. So today I am talking about reinventing yourself and creating space for a changed self, a new self. And it was inspired. I shared something very similar on IG the other day about change being a constant. We know change is a constant, and that you have the opportunity to reinvent yourself as many times as you need to. Like there's no limit to if it needs to be done, do it. And I shared a picture of this sunroom space that I'm sitting in. I think, have I been in this space? Maybe I was in this space the other week when we were talking, but it wasn't completely finished, and I finished it now. And the room changed, and I knew it needed to change for the person that I am now. Like, I have shared with you all my journey in experiencing the stroke, the journey post that, my medical journey, the challenges that I have had, and also learning the physical differences that I have from a brain processing perspective. I've shared all of that, and I'm very open with sharing it because I'm not the first person that's had a stroke. I'm not the last person. And I feel like it's important for us to talk about things that impact us so we can help each other. If I can prevent somebody from going through what I'm going through, that's, exactly what I want to do. And so as I've recognized how I am different, how I have changed, I have to accommodate for that change. And I had to do that as I put this room back together. So obviously I could have put the room back together, you know, and so for some of you asking like why, if you're not familiar, I moved my house. Let me take it just a step back. Moved the house, and then part of the house, this piece, this sunroom, the porch had to be reattached to the house. So if you're not familiar with that, IG will catch you up. But anyway, so and the room had to be put back together from, kind of the total perspective of starting all over with it. I've shared about that here on IG as well. And I could have put the room right back together, as it had been. But because I know how my brain is processing, I also know that I need to do things differently to accommodate how I process now. And so I have shared, I have impact to executive functioning, which is your thought process and your organization, and all of those things, all of the things that have always been my strong points. And what that also, as I've recognized, it also means that I need less stuff around. I won't say clutter because my space hasn't been cluttered, but I needed less of even the stuff that I've had. My home represents me. I have little things that I've always had out in the house, and I still have some of them, but I needed to lessen some of it because as I think about it, my brain needs peace. Not that it wasn't peaceful. My brain needs space to process. Maybe that's a better way to say it. And so I knew I needed to set up this space differently to accommodate that, because this space is also my office. And so I spend, a good bit of time here. And in spending the time here, I'm working, I'm thinking, and I needed the space to, yes, Claudia, the space to accommodate how my brain needs to work now. Crystal gave me a better explanation of what I was trying to say. Less visual stimulation. Thank you, Crystal. I'm going to have to write that down. That's exactly what I was trying to say. And so that is how I put this space back together. And that is the reinvention of me. I also, as I talk about taking care of your future self, I also know at some point this room will become my bedroom because it's on the lower level. I absolutely love my loft. My stairs aren't difficult to navigate, but as I think for future self. And as I think about when I had my surgeries, I couldn't navigate those stairs as I had my surgeries. And so one of the things that I did in this space is I swapped out my futon. I've always had a futon in here, but it wasn't, you could sleep on it, but it wasn't the most comfortable spot for sleeping. And so I swapped it out and I have a day bed in here now. Absolutely, LT. So that was a change I made for my future self. Less visual stimulation for my current self, the way my brain is processing, and then for my future self, the day bed, because I know at some point soon this was going to become my bedroom. And so my post, as I was thinking through this and the inspiration for this conversation is, I have shared sometimes, like, as things are changing, as we're evolving, sometimes it's not by choice. And so a lot of my changes are forced changes that I didn't choose for my brain to process differently. Sometimes it is change that we choose, but as we evolve, sometimes we find ourselves either not accommodating that change or that evolution. Hi, Sophia. Or we find ourselves fighting it. And that is often how we get stuck. And so the first step is recognition. Like, we know, and I knew what you meant, Sophia. That is the first step for so many things. Like, if you have I think that's how AAA classes start. The first step is recognition. The first step in acknowledging something is recognition. So that the first step is recognition. And then the moving on from that also starts with grace. And y'all know that's my word. Grace in acknowledging you're changing, you've evolved, whether it was by choice, whether it was forced. You tend to resist change. We oftentimes want to be comfortable in this spot, and we get comfortable and don't recognize that there's some things ahead of us that we should be embracing, some good things, some improved things, some additional opportunities. So the first step is acknowledging it and moving forward in grace. And so that is one of the things that I have had to really acknowledge, that I'm different. And as I have gotten, I shared the other week that, testing is what helped me understand how my brain is now working. And so now I've got some answers because I knew I was different. I just didn't know how I was different. And so now I've got those answers. And now I need to honor that, basically. And so when you think about some of the ways, so I just shared, changing this room from a physical perspective and a mental perspective. So the mental perspective being less visual stimulation, as LT and Crystal helped me with. And then the physical part of it being the change in the day from the futon to the day bed. A lot of that, a lot of times the change is in mindset. So, and I'll step back to say, in honoring my change, I also recognize that I have to make notes. My to-do list, I have to make notes more than I've ever had to make notes before. My to-do list has to be on point. I know I might have a thought, and I know that I have to write that thought down now, because in times past where I would come back to that thought, oftentimes that thought is gone now. And so I know that I have to write that thought down right away. So I also have some notes. I said all that to say I've got some notes, because where I might have been able to get through the conversation with just winging it, now I know I need to make more notes. You all also know my words don't always come to me. So I made some notes, because some of the words I want to make sure I get right. So again, acknowledging this and moving in grace and honoring the changes. And so sometimes that change has to be a change in mindset and a change in our internal dialogue. Um, Part of what I've had to do was change how I think about myself, how I speak about myself, how I feel about myself. Again, in grace and in self-compassion. And then sometimes as we're fighting it, it is letting go of previous narratives that we've had of ourselves, ways that we've thought about ourselves before that no longer work for us, um, ways that we've allowed people to think of us that no longer work for us. And so some of it is in mindset or an internal dialogue. Some of it is in our belief system. Sometimes that has to change. You're evolving, you're changed, and you're not the things that you felt and thought and believed in before. They're not the same thing. And so they're not the same way in now. And so you have to change your belief system. Crystal is saying grace is difficult to give myself. I'm going to stop for just a second here and share this exercise that, because grace is my word. I actually have a tattoo on the back of my, at the top of my shoulder blades, and it's grace. And I've had it since 2008-ish, referencing more of God's grace, because that is 2007 is when I had blood clots in both of my lungs, and I shouldn't from that time I shouldn't have been here. And so I know that I am here from grace. But grace is so hard to give to ourselves. It's so much easier to give grace to other people. And I was in a working with one of my mentors in a session the other day, and we were talking about what we had accomplished for our first quarter. So end of March, the work that we had accomplished for the first quarter. And she suggested that we go about thinking about the work differently versus or the things that we had accomplished for first quarter. She suggested that we go about thinking about it differently from like the corporate list of accomplishments for first quarter and going that way. She asked us to think about all the things that we wanted to do, things that we wanted to accomplish in our first quarter. But as we thought about those things and the things that we didn't accomplish, think about the things that you didn't accomplish and make a list of all the reasons why you didn't accomplish those things that you had expected to accomplish in your first quarter. And she gave us some time to make the list. And so, of course, a lot of my dialogue was this testing, learning about the outcomes of the test, learning how my neurologist was janky, my disability abruptly ending, all of those things, like a whole long list of things that I had experienced in this first quarter, that had not allowed me to accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish. And in sitting with that list, you know the things that have happened, but you don't necessarily make a list of what's going on. You just kind of know it. But to compile that list and look at the list and realize why I hadn't done the things that I had on my list that I have been, kind of really beat myself up about. I should have done this. I should have gotten this done. There was a lot of need to sit in grace and recognize you couldn't have done those things because all of these things impacted getting these things done. And they were real things, and they were real things that prevented you from getting those things done. But until I recognized them, because recognition is the first step, until I recognized them, and it was so much easier to recognize them as I made this list, as they've been floating around. Like, I know the things that have happened, but they've just been kind of floating around. But until I acknowledge them, recognize them, made a list of them, I needed, excuse me, excuse me. I needed to sit with that, and I needed to offer myself some grace. And as I've thought about that, which is why grace is my word, I don't always practice grace for myself. Even having experienced a stroke, I don't always give myself the grace that I need. I shared early on that, especially right after it happened, and I still get tired. Like, I was not even allowing myself to really take a nap. It's like, girl, you had a whole stroke. Lay your ass down. So it's the grace it is, and it's a practice that we have to really work hard on in practicing and acknowledging and allowing grace for ourselves. And so I recognize that and relate to that so much, Crystal. It is so much easier to offer others, but I often have to say to myself, what would I offer someone that was saying the same things to me, that that the things that have happened, or the things that I need to acknowledge, as somebody else was saying that to me, that it had happened to them. What kind of grace would I have offered them? And then going back to offer that to myself. And so it is a practice, and it is something that we consistently have to practice and constantly have to do. So I think all of us struggle with that. And so that is, a piece where I said it starts with grace. That's really something that we have to start with in offering ourselves grace. So the areas, as we're considering reinventing, we might have to change our mindset and our internal dialogue. It might be, when I've been outside working this morning, it's a whole bunch of pollen, so it's all in my throat. It also might be, yes, Evelyn, absolutely. So I shared about my home and my space. So, we always go back to decluttering. Sometimes it is in acknowledging the reinvention of self, that you're different, the less stimulation, decluttering for clarity and alignment. Maybe you need to add some things that for this change that nurture this new person that you are inventing, this new person that has been invented for you. Also, as I shared, updating your design. Maybe, a lot of times we'll get stuck in, this is the way the house has been for 10 years, and this is just it, versus this isn't working for the new me. I need to adjust this. I need to make some changes, even if it is something very insignificant, as I keep talking about, like paint and pillows are oftentimes some very easy ways to change a space. And so our mindset, our dialogue, our space, our home, and then, we always go into people, places, and things. Sometimes it is, as you reinvent yourself, you have to reinvent your friend circles. And people get stuck with this, but sometimes the new person that you have been forced into, the new person that you have reinvented yourself into. The friend circles don't fit anymore. And somebody has a quote about friends and people being for, a reason, a season, a lesson, a blessing, or something like that. um Sometimes we will hold on to stuff to our detriment because we're still trying to fit ourselves into places that we previously fit in, and sometimes that just doesn't work, and it's okay. It's painful. You have to you might have to deal with grief, in not might there's absolutely some grief involved in that, but processing that grief, allowing yourself to acknowledge that I have to change this circle because the new me no longer fits in this circle, and going through the process of acknowledging that. Part of that goes back to our belief systems. Changing part of that is changing how you see yourself, and if you know you're different, you haven't acknowledged that you're different, or you haven't personally acknowledged how you see your new self, then you'll keep trying to fit yourself into those old spaces, and it'll be uncomfortable until you recognize that I no longer fit in those spaces. So in friend circles, in relationships, boundaries that reflect this reinvented person, this reinvented self, those are some of the changes that we'll have to make. LT, I went from talking about doing these things with people to being the only one actually doing it. Better get comfortable going and finding new people in the way. Absolutely. And in addition to the grief that comes along with it, sometimes, those people might resent your change, your reinvention. You might get some flack from it, like kind of what LT was saying, as you're changing, and folks will, sometimes feel like you're acting funny now, or I always reference a friend of mine who years ago told me I was mean now as I had established some boundaries. And I told him I wasn't mean. I think he was, and other folks were used to me being more of a people pleaser. And I got to a point many years ago, I think it was, kind of going into the 50s, like, that's done. And some people, might have seen that as, now you're mean. And the funny part is now he's in that place. It took him, years later to get there, but he's in that place. And I always make sure I call out to him, oh, you're mean. Just, just not because I believe he's mean, just because I want him to recognize that where I was establishing boundaries as I was hitting in my 50s, now you're there, and you are doing the exact same thing that I had done. So sometimes it's relationships and boundaries, and aligning relationships, new friendships, getting into new circles, kind of to LT's point, that are have some of the same interests that you have, or doing some of the same things from, maybe a business perspective, to acknowledge, to recognize, to accommodate this reinvented self. TD is saying, thank you. Even have to establish boundaries with grown kids. Amen. Absolutely. Habits and daily practices. That was my other point. So as I've noticed the change of who I am and how I move, I've shared with you all, like, daily meditation is required, because it was interesting that it came out of my testing. As after the testing, I was talking to the neurologist who had um, administered the testing, and I was asking her, like, what do I do to help myself now that I have the change? And the first thing she said was meditation. Meditation helps. And I had kind of, I always had a meditation practice, but I wasn't consistent with it. And I had started being consistent even before the testing, because I recognized it made my brain feel better. It quieted. I keep speaking to, like, quiet, the less visual stimulation, the less like their noise, all of those things. So meditation helps me with that. And so as you're reinventing yourself, you might have to shift your habits and your practices to accommodate this new person, this reinvented person. Or you might have to create practices that recognize and support this this new person. So figuring out what that looks like. I mentioned I now have list, and it's more important for me to make to-do list. I've always made to-do list, but I also recognized I needed another tool to help me organize the to-do list, because it's not just a long list that helps me. I need to be able to organize the long list straight out the gate so that I can get the things done. And so recognizing this reinvented self in accommodating what reinvented self needs. Sometimes it is letting go of old habits and practices, or old patterns that are really no longer serving this reinvented self. And so changing our habits and changing our daily practices becomes a piece of creating the space for the who you are right now. Um, Absolutely. Absolutely, WLJ. And I think one of the things to call out is that you're still getting to know this new person, and it's acceptable for you to still be figuring things out. This reinvention, I said it on my IG post, like, there's no limit to how many times you can reinvent yourself. It's up to you. As you're figuring out this person and going through this process, the way you thought this new person was in the beginning, as you go through it, it might not be the same person that morphs a few months later. That's okay. That is what you have to do. What we need to do is accommodate, create space for the person that you are right now, right this minute, because change is constant. You might not be this same person next month. I'm not saying be so over the top that I don't even recognize who you are from the person that you were last month. Like, I think that is to the extreme, but there is no hard stop or something in the sand. What is it? Something in the sand. A line in the sand. That's it. There's like no hard stop for this is who I am, and these are the things that represent me. Boom, boom, boom. And it's the constant evolution. And so that part is important to recognize. There also might need to be changes in the work that you do, how you move through your gifts that you're offering. I can honestly say that as I have processed who I am now, how having a stroke has changed me. um, I know I need to move differently in the work that I do. I And when I say the work that I do, I'm speaking about, for me, the work that I do within the tiny house movement is a gift. And so when I say work, it's really this gift. Um, it has changed me in how I know I want and need to show up in those gifts, and how I need to acknowledge the gifts. And so acknowledging your reinvention, your new you, and then creating space for your new you, as you're thinking through your beliefs, your thought system, your ideals. That also can impact your work, actually your job, and your purpose, if that's what you call your purpose, or your gifts. I feel like my purpose and gifts are kind of interchangeable. This is the thing that I'm supposed to do, has been gifted to me, and so that's why I refer to it more as the gifts. But this is something that, as we're changing, we also have to create space for that, in for that change. And that kind of also is a segue, or as we're talking about our beliefs and um our gifts, it also is like our spiritual connection. If you're changing ideals, if you're reinventing yourself, um in addition to changing your habits, sometimes, as we were talking about meditation, I see people talking about journaling, creating rituals that help you stay anchored as you're changing. And so um writing down, acknowledging your changes. And so you're creating space so that you have acknowledgement. You're creating practices that speak to this metamorphosis, basically, and putting that in place, and honoring the change, perhaps in ideals, in your spirituality and your connection. That's also possible. If we take it to even a religious standpoint, people change religions all the time, and it is something that you have to allow yourself to do, and acknowledge, like, the new person that you become based on this change. This is who I am. These are some of the things that are carryovers. These are the ways I am the same. These are the ways that I'm different. And then acknowledging that, and creating space for all of that. um it is so important, because I feel like sometimes we'll recognize that we're changing, and absolutely, we'll recognize that we're changing or we're different, and we will resist it, which isn't gonna do anybody any good. And so if you find yourself in that place of resistance, because a lot of times we recognize that we're changing, and we recognize that change is going to be, absolutely, Evelyn, that change is going to require upheaval, as we were talking about, like the friend circle, or upheaval in it could even be upheaval in divorce. I'm not saying somebody should go out and get a divorce, but sometimes as you change, you might need a divorce. Ask me how I know. Um, Maybe it is, I don't want to date this person no more, but I really want to date that person. Like, sometimes it's a whole upheaval, and you'll be in resistance because you recognize that this reinvention, this change, is going to cause drama, and it is potentially going to hurt people, and so we'll resist it. It's not going. You can push it down. You can decide, I'm not going to acknowledge it and potentially live in misery. Or you can acknowledge that it's something that needs to be done so that I can be the person that the new person that I am, the reinvented person that I am, the person that has evolved, the person that has been changed. And so I'll go back to the first step is recognition. The first, it's one, it's number one, A and a B. So the first step is recognition, and part of that is moving in grace. It's gonna feel overwhelming. Break it down into some actionable steps. We're always talk about actionable steps. If it is your space, a habit, a thought process, one at a time. Like you don't have to do all the things, but taking it slowly helps. Andrea, if I think you changed your name. If I know who this is, that's interesting. I want to talk to you about that. If you are who I think you are. LOL3, Carolina Care Community. Are you saying you're on divorce number 3? I go you. I got sometimes you just got to know yourself. I think I learned that I don't necessarily know that I'll do marriage again. Like other than right now, I've learned about lavender marriage, and I'm getting ready to get off on a tangent. Lavender marriage is like when you marry just because somebody has some insurance and some benefits that you need, and neither one of y'all really want to be married, but you're married. You're married for the benefits. Like I would consider lavender marriage, but y'all know it can't come in my space. So it is somebody just called it unearthing. I love that. Unearthing. Acknowledging it and making it happen and being true to yourself and creating the space for who you are right now. In the resistance, maybe you need to have a ceremony to let go of the stuff. When I was going through my divorce, and so I've been divorced since 97, 98. One of them. So long ago, like I say, it fell off my credit. I don't even hi Tasha. I don't even have to talk about it. It's been so long ago. But a lot of times people, and I have done a burning ceremony, like making a list of who that person was, letting go all of that, and symbolically having a burning ceremony to know that you are no longer that person. So that the process that you're in a symbolic, a spiritual, physical process of letting that person go. That is your past person. So, High Vibe is saying lavender is a relaxing herb. Why would that be a relaxing marriage? Just call it marriage for benefits. No, you don't have to live with the lavender spouse. So it is relaxing because the struggle, it would be relaxing because the struggle of having to pay expensive Cobra would go, for me as I'm speaking. The struggle, I'm off on a tangent again. The struggle of paying for expensive Cobra would go away. You have somebody to, like, whatever your agreements are, you are sharing the load with somebody. So that would absolutely be relaxing. I didn't make up the name. That's what it's called. But I can relate to the calm and the relaxation that it would bring. So I don't have a problem with the name. It makes sense to me. Um, I see I ain't the only one over here thinking about lavender marriage. Um, Crystal is saying to do it just to make sure it's in writing. Like, okay, I'm still way off of a tangent. I would never get married anywhere other than Georgia. Like, I don't know all of the other states' rules. I definitely would not get married in North Carolina because their rules are a lot. If I'm getting married, I'm getting in Georgia, and I'm getting divorced in Georgia. That was really easy. So anyway, so let me get back to the subject at hand. So in this resistance, letting go, like maybe you symbolically or need to get get rid of the things that are the old you, the past you, so that you have that symbolism of I am moving forward. And Carly is saying it's a spiritual purge, that you're moving into this new space. um I see some of y'all are y'all are thinking like I'm thinking. I have said from the beginning, like I want to, if a relationship, a marriage, I don't want you to be in my space. I want you to have your space. We spend some time together. Maybe we spend a couple of days together, whatever it is, until it feels like I'm ready for you to go home, or you feel like you're ready for me to go home. We travel, we do all of those things. That is marriage for me. That is why lavender marriage, I need some benefits, would work for me. So, okay, let me get back on point. But I see some of y'all are coming around to how I'm thinking. Okay, Earth Mother, I need to look that up. And then okay, so let me get back on, let me look at my notes, because y'all know I done got off task. We talked about the new circles, being in spaces of creating space, physical, mental, spiritual, all of those things, creating spaces, being in spaces that support this reinvented person. That's important. If you find yourself in resistance, putting yourself in those places that support this change, that support this new person, so that you can also start to embrace it. That is important. Reconnecting with the why. That for me is, I talk about in my workshops, understanding your why. That's so that is so important. Always understanding the why. For, as I talk about in tiny house workshops, it is the why of why you're building your tiny house. For me, it was the I want to live in no freedom. That was something for me important to identify upfront and to hang on to that as I was moving through the process. I want to live in no freedom absolutely relates to me living in my house now and the journey that I'm going through and how my house is supporting it. So always reminding yourself of your why, visualizing the why of I'm a new person, why I want to be this new person. Or again, I will go back to this new person isn't a choice. Sometimes it's forced. The why. So as I think through the change that I am, acknowledging the why am I different? Why am I moving differently? Why am I needing to do things differently? And it is the why is the core of it is having had a stroke. But then that also takes me back to that place of gratitude. I had a stroke, could have been so much worse. I am grateful to be in this space that I am in. And that's where, your grace and your gratitude, and honoring that I'm still here, but I'm different, and I can acknowledge that in move forward. Hey, Darlinda. Okay, congratulations to you. I'm not there, but congratulations to you. I'm happy for you for that. Um, Crystal, I'm having some meetings, so that's in the works. I see your comment about the workshop. So your why, reconnecting with your why. We talked about honoring the grief that comes with reinvention. It's going to be some grief by choice or by force, either whichever way you move. There is some grief. There's some grief in change, in honoring that and sitting with that and acknowledging that and healing from that. Like you have to acknowledge that there is this change that has happened by force or by choice, and I'm not this person. I'm creating space for this new person. I honor who I've been. I acknowledge this change, this necessary change, this that process of allowing yourself to transition through the change. And then time. It takes time to honor reinvention. And again, reinvention, next quarter you might be somebody totally different. Understanding that, and from a timing perspective, understanding that reinvention is always going to be constant evolution, where you aren't going to get stuck and stay in, you don't want to get stuck and stay in this same place, because even as you're trying to stay in the same place, you are a different person, and so you want to acknowledge that. So if you find yourself resistant, work through some of those things, because fighting it ain't getting ready to help you. That's all I got for y'all today. I see some of y'all want to talk about lavender marriage. Christine, I see your question. Because I have some stuff happening, I only am talking about all of that inside some closed doors, because I don't need the man all in my business. So acknowledging that, but that I'm not sharing all of that out in the world. Cynthia's saying a Shirley Ralph marriage. I'm not familiar with how how her marriage works, but y'all, I'm clear on how I need to work through a marriage at this point. I haven't shared pictures of my space yet. I'll do all the things. I have a couple of projects that I'm excited about that are also happening. I'm working on will be working on taking out my tub and changing it over to a shower, working with the sponsor on that project, 6-3 tile. I'm really excited about that work and the and what that's going to look like. So I'm working with Chris, the capable carpenter, on that project, and a woman named Tracy Collins, who has the exact same name as my good friend Tracy Collins, from 6-3 Tile. So I'll be documenting that and sharing all of that process. And then also we'll be working on the screened-in porch is the next project I have to work on, and the roof of the that has to be replaced. And so Chris, the capable carpenter, is going to be helping with that project as well. And I have a sponsor for that project, Amerilux. And so I will document both of those projects in depth and separately and share all of that, because both of the projects are really, really, the materials are really great materials. And so I want to share that with y'all for opportunity and interest for projects that you might have going on. So that's upcoming, but I will share pictures. I'm still settling in. Share pictures of this space and the work that I'm doing outside. What I'm doing outside is relative to wrapping the house. I always talk about winterization of a tiny house. And so what I am doing now is working on the winterization. And as I do winterization for my house, I do it like once so that I don't have to do it, October as winter gets ready to head in. And so that's what I'm working on outside now. And I'll share. I'm doing it totally different this time. And I am I'm finishing that up. Evelyn says, we have covered a lot in this gathering, feeling lighter and ready to keep reinventing me. Amen. All right. I love that. We got an acronym, a Lat marriage. It's not a lavender marriage, living apart together. Oh, okay. Lat marriage. I like lavender. I feel like the marriage is going to smell good. Anyway, hello. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Right. Okay, what else? Let me see. I agree. An awakening. There for me, I like that word. Somebody I think her name is Mother Earth, mentioned unearthing, and awakening. I'm in a group with other people who have experienced stroke. And that was a question someone asked. Did others feel like they were having an awakening as a result of having had their stroke? I can confirm that. Like, I was already there, but it catapulted me into it even more. Spiritual change, emotional change. I've shared. So I've always been a crier. I do think I have a little more control over crying, even though my friend Sag says I'm lying. Now it's just off the chain. And this lady was, I might have shared this. This lady was saying her emotional change is that she's angry all of the time. And I knew my emotion was different. Like, just for some simple things, I know I'm getting ready to cry. And I've not always been like that. And before I didn't initially recognize that it was as part of my change to my brain processing. And then in this group, this lady said she's always angry. And I was like, oh, whew, I'm okay with crying all the time. I'd rather cry than be angry all the time. I just would not want to be. And she said she wasn't angry all the time prior to. So I had to say, in gratitude, thank you, that it's just crying, because I don't want to be angry all the time. Absolutely. I agree, Earth Mother. Absolutely. I love the term awakening too. A dollar at a time. All right, congratulations to you. You should message me. I would love to share your home if you're interested in sharing your home. Have I caught what I said? In my lavender marriage, because it's just gonna be good all around, so it's gotta smell good. Congratulations, a dollar at a time. Absolutely. Okay. It's 1 o'clock. Um, Sunshine is adding something to the lavender marriage. I don't think somebody has to be, well, maybe before it. I think lavender marriage has also gone through some reinvention, and I think before it was more for some gay people, or one person was gay and really didn't, and maybe even to cover some of that. As I understand it now, people are just doing it from a convenience standpoint because people can't afford shit. And so it's not necessarily because somebody is gay, but it is more so from a benefits perspective. I had this conversation with a friend. I was not familiar with it until a friend mentioned that what I keep saying I want, as far as benefits, is actually um, lavender marriage. Um, yes, LT, likely also part of grief. Grief and after major, in one of the things I've also learned, like after major things, my doctor shared this, after a stroke, after cancer treatment, for experiencing cancer, heart attacks, people experience depression and grief. And so that, I agree that that probably is a big piece of it. Y'all are funny. High Vibe is going to have some lavender tea. I might need to go get me some too. Um, oh my goodness. Claudia might have reported me as she's trying to walk through Walmart. And listen, no worries, I'm teasing. Um, okay, so Nichelle is saying historically both people were gay in lavender marriages to cover themselves personally and professionally in a hostile society. That's what I thought it was as well, but I do believe it now has reinvented itself, which is just a good piece of this conversation, that people recognize two is better than one, and how we can put our money together so that we can um, afford to live in this world. So yeah, that's what we're talking about over here, because I need some benefits in that kind of stuff so that life can flow a little smoother. All right, good people. That's all I got. Crystal is saying, reminding y'all, don't forget to like the video, share the video. I have shared my things. If you want to send some love, I am open to love sharing. And I appreciate y'all for love that you all always share. So I thank you for the past. I thank you in advance. Um, I don't know how to pronounce that word, high vibe. I might need to look that up. Hmm. Um, have a great week. Um, thank y'all. Thank you, everybody. For folks that are in my Patreon group, a reminder. Let me make sure I'm saying the right thing. Yes, this is the second Wednesday. So we have our Patreon community conversation on Wednesday. That is the space that I was talking about, where we can see each other, we can chat and do some and have some more in-depth conversations, because it is a private space. So if you're not in Patreon, join us. I am moving that group over soon. I am now in my WUSA space. And so now I can start doing some of the working in my gifts, the stuff that I want to do. You too, Darlinda. I'm excited for you. Congratulations. But join us in Patreon if you would like that, like to do that. Happy Sunday. I got work to do out here in the pollen, in the sun, before these storms come. Thank y'all for being here. As always, I appreciate y'all. LT, safe travels. Thank you, Crystal. All right, I'll talk to y'all soon. Take care. Don't forget, now, as you're reinventing yourself, give yourself some grace. recognize it, create the space for it, and we can do all of this together. We can be different and new and all of those things together. So take care, y'all. Bye.